Good morning, one and all. First of all, here, on behalf of the Embassy of India in Dublin and the Ambassador of India to Ireland, His Excellency Mr. Akhilesh Mishraji, we welcome all of you for this seminar, India Market Entry Strategy. We welcome the main speaker of this event, His Excellency Mr. Anil Trigunayak, former Ambassador of India, and our partners for this event today, Invest India, CII, and IIBA, India Ireland Business Association, and dignitaries from various Chamber of Commerce and business entities in Ireland. Looking for a fruitful discussion today, may I now request His Excellency Ambassador of India to Ireland for give away his introductory remarks for this topic. Thank you, sir.
Namaskar, very warm greetings from Indian Embassy in Dublin. I'm very delighted to welcome all of you people who are here with the Embassy and also friends who are joining from India. At the outset, I must thank my very dear friend and my very inspiring senior colleague, Ambassador Anil Trigunayak, for accepting our invitation. And also, I must thank our esteemed partners, IIBA in Ireland and also CII and Invest India in India. Also, let me begin by thanking my young colleague, Damodaran, who has just joined us, and he has brought tremendous energy from India to this mission. I would leave the India entry strategy to Ambassador Anil Trigunayak. Let me share my perspective, what I see as Ambassador of India in Ireland for the last 1.5 years. First of all, I wish to recall a very long-standing, close, friendly ties that India and Ireland have enjoyed. And India celebrated the 75 years of independence, and Ireland marked 100 years of independence. So, as ambassador at this historical juncture, I had great opportunity of reviewing the past, and it really stirred my soul how the freedom struggle of Ireland inspired people back home in India. And I have visited many counties in Ireland. I have seen what kind of struggle Irish friends had and how they inspired India. So also on the constitution drafting, Ireland's imprint on our constitution is very profound. Not just directive principles, but very many areas were debated in our Constituent Assembly, referring with tremendous appreciation to the 1937 Constitution of Ireland. Also, in the contemporary times, I'm very delighted that we share extremely close, friendly, very warm bilateral relationship. And it's largely driven by people-to-people connect. The census of Ireland, preliminary data that we have, shows that Indian diaspora in Ireland is the largest non-European community in Ireland, in terms of citizens. About 45,000 Indian citizens in Ireland. Only the British and Polish have more citizens in Ireland compared to India. Also, India has become the #1 source of international students in Irish universities. And most of our students are coming for high-value programs, masters and PhD, and not usual English language courses, which attract a lot of other countries. Also, India's contribution in Ireland's mainstream economic activities, whether it's a technology sector or healthcare sector or agri or fintech or account and auditing. So Indian presence, Indian footprint is now visible in every sector and also in every county. So we are at a very significant cusp in India-Ireland partnership. Second aspect is post-Brexit, Ireland deserves much greater focus from Indian business community, which somehow not has happened. And one reason I see is that Irish people are very humble like Indians, very modest, so that is deceptive. Also, Ireland's population is very deceptive because if from Delhi people look at Ireland as a country of 5 million people, then they don't get the full picture of the vibrancy of Irish economy. Ireland although its own population will be only 5 million people, its diaspora connect is really formidable. About 70 or 75 million people worldwide claim Irish heritage. In US, about 40 or 45 million people, and half of the American presidents have had Irish heritage. So please don't look Ireland from the perspective of its 5 million population. Ireland's location, if you look at like from a traditional perspective, then it's Ireland is an island behind an island or one extremity of European Union, but there's a wrong way of looking at Ireland. Sitting here, I feel thrilled to see the strategic locational advantage that Ireland enjoys. Not only traditionally connecting with the UK, a part of European Union, but whole of Europe on one side, but also equally important connection with the US and Canada. So it's a really central, if you're looking at a fuller, broader picture of trade and investment and technology connectivity. Also, it is not properly appreciated in India is that Ireland is European Union's the fastest growing economy. Ireland is European Union's second highest per capita in GDP economy. Also, Ireland was the only country which maintained positive growth trajectory even during the crisis period of Corona. Ireland has about 17 to 1900 multinational companies, top 8 out of 10 IT companies, top 8 out of 10 medtech and pharma companies are present in India. Also, Ireland's role in fintech and agri-tech is really remarkable. About 60% of aircrafts leased worldwide are handled from Ireland. For me, it's very inspiring how, coming from an agrarian background, Ireland has emerged as a very, very significant niche manufacturing hub. Annual trade in manufactured goods of Ireland is about 260 billion euros. And if you also include the services trade, then export import taken together is about 330 billion euros of services trade. It's a 5 million population, but it's a very large economy. About $500 billion GDP, and I mentioned about 260 billion euros of goods trade to 330 billion euros of services trade. It's a very large economy. Also, it is not properly appreciated in India that Ireland has emerged as an extremely vibrant startup hub. About 25 to 30,000 startups in Ireland. And also Ireland has the distinction of being the most successful startup cluster. In terms of success rate in Ireland is assessed to be about 16 to 17%. The European Union's overall success rate in startup is only about 6 to 7%. In India, the success rate is only about 1 to 2%. So there's a lot of Ireland can share with us. Also, Ireland's locational advantage in terms of R&D hub, science and technology, very cutting-edge universities. Number of universities in Ireland is smaller, much smaller than India, but in terms of their imprint, is very refreshing for us to look at. Also, I wish to highlight the second point that I wish to stress is that despite the disparity in size of our two countries, there are a lot of commonalities. Like if you look at the key sectors in which Ireland has formidable strength, whether IT or medtech or pharma or agriculture, agri-tech, aviation. So they are also education, skilling, startup, innovation. So these are also areas in which India has also tremendous strength. But what fascinates me is that we are not conflicting with each other. Our strengths are complementary. So this is a great niche opportunity for us to dovetail our strengths and become each other's strength and force multiplier. Second aspect is that currently we have trouble-free bilateral relations, nothing but goodwill, nothing but warmth at the political leadership level, also at the academia, intellectuals, grassroots level, people to people. So we have best climate for taking our relationship to the next level. On the B2B front, as I said, it's not very wise to look at Ireland from a 5 million market mindset. Ireland has to be looked at as a strategic hub. Also, for export promotion perspective, I don't see that it's worthwhile for every Indian to look at Ireland for exporting. Ireland should be focused by high-end, high-value exporters and create the niche market for them, for their products. Also, Ireland should be looked at as an investment hub where you use Ireland's very attractive corporate tax regime, very conducive, very helpful R&D and startup innovation regime, and extremely pro-investment government policies. So Ireland should be looked at investment hub, not just trading opportunity. And in terms of the opportunities, I see education and skilling. Vocational skilling is the low-hanging fruit. And B2B, P2P partnership in skilling could be a easiest and most important area for us to look at in the very short term. Secondly, startup connect is very important opportunity in which both can benefit. And when I talk about startups, I also look at the mutual funding opportunities, like venture capitalists. So there is no reason why Indian investors should look at investment in Irish startups and also Indian Irish investors should look more closely at Indian vibrant startup ecosystem. India has the third largest cluster of startups and also third largest number of unicorns. So in both ways, connectivity would be beneficial for all parties. And together we can come up with innovative solutions which are beneficial for many more countries, not only our country. With these words, my sincere thanks to each one once again. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your inspiring speech, sir, and especially the conducive climate in terms of bilateral relations, and also the different perspectives which are required to look at the opportunities available, and also the very inspiring statistics, sir. Thank you so much, sir. And now we will move on to our main speaker today. May I invite our main speaker today, His Excellency Mr. Anil Thirugunetji, former Ambassador of India, to give away his elaborate speech on the topic, India Market Entry Strategy. A brief intro about Ambassador. So the list is very long. We wonder how you manage your time. You are very busy. At the same time, I'll just pick some of the things, sir. Ambassador is a former Ambassador of India to Jordan, Libya, and Malta, and President of MICCIA Chamber of Commerce, and Secretary Association of Indian Diplomats, former ambassadors, and Chair Advisory Council of India, Italy Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Distinguished Fellow Vivekananda International Foundation, and Advisor Asia Africa Chamber of Commerce and BRICS Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you, sir, for joining us today. We all honor yours, and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Namaskar. Very good morning to you all. Your Excellency, my dear friend, Ambassador Akhilesh Mishra, and dear friend D. Murugaraj, DCM, and the Trade Commissioner, friends from the CII, Invest India, and other chambers and organizations, ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed a great pleasure for me to be talking to you today, and thanks to Ambassador Mishra and Mr. Murugaraj to invite me to share some of my thoughts. Many of those will actually appear to be common sense rather than something coming out, but these are the things that are acceptable across the world. The care that one needs to take in order to enter a market is always very important, because preparation for anything and the patience is very important to identify the strategies that you are going to move forward with. Frankly, no market in the world is easy to get in. So you have to understand that policy frameworks in the countries, the doing business indexes of the countries, the legal and regulatory frameworks of the countries are pretty different and very, very important to understand if you wish to enter into a market. There are many ways to get into the country. But the most important thing is to understand about what a country, why should we go to XYZ market? I'm sure my friends from the Invest India and CII will be giving you a lot of statistics about what is happening in India. But most of you would already be aware. In my view, India is an indispensable place to be in. And it's better to be there yesterday than tomorrow. So it is a growing opportunity. And that's the bottom line, frankly. It is an opportunity where you need to be there. And I was so happy to hear from Ambassador Mishra that Ireland is EU's fastest growing economy. India is the fastest growing major economy in the world. It is, even during the pandemic, it continued to grow. And fortunately, so did we. And despite the pandemic and despite the Russia-Ukraine war, India continues to grow at 6.5, 6.7%. And frankly, if we were to listen to the Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, World Bank, IMF, and others, today India is the fifth largest economy, surpassed UK recently. And if you follow this further, by 2050, we are supposed to be by 2030, it would be possibly be third largest economy, and 2050, the second largest, and 2065, perhaps the largest economy in the world. And these are the Americans and other international watchers who are talking about this, not us. But the fact remains is the government of India has today, under the leadership, of course, of Prime Minister Modi, has set its eyes on our 100 years, that is 2047. That is 25 years, 24 years from now, which means India will become a developed country in the world. And that's what we are looking at today. Many of the developing countries are there, many developed countries are there, but a developed country with the kind of size, the largest, most populous nation in the world, with the largest youth dividend in the world, with aspirational youth, with a tremendous capacity and tremendous opportunity. Now, these are things. So for this, you need to align your company's strategy with the Indian strategy. India is welcoming the investments, is welcoming international trade, and it is welcoming the foreign collaborations, be it in technology, be it in tourism, or be it in trade. So we need to be very careful. While you are doing all that, you also need to understand what are the kind of bilateral regulatory environments that are going to be helpful to us. For example, between India and Ireland, we have a robust double taxation avoidance treaty, which could be useful for you if you're, as Ambassador was mentioning, if your corporate tax is lower, you might benefit from that. Or if in India you find it better, you can use that for your advantage. So in any case, we have to, likewise, if there is a bilateral investment protection agreement, that's so good for you. Otherwise, in any case, India is a part of the MIGA, the international regime. And so today, one more thing is, which is very important, is that India is in the driving seat of the global economy. That is, by chairing the G20 today, this whole year, we have seen that whether it is B20, whether in the financial domain, or whether in the cyber domain or cryptocurrencies, everywhere today, India is trying to work out a new and functional mechanism, which for the global good can be helpful in the long run. What we have seen with this war, which is going on today, there are problem of four Fs, which are confronting everyone, every country in the world, from the poorest to the richest, from the weakest to the strongest. Very often we talk about the three Fs, and one F is food, other is fuel, third is fertilizer. Those have been weaponized. But we very often do not talk about something called weaponization of financial instruments. Now, that weaponization of financial instruments is causing a tremor in the global financial landscape, which means that today we are looking at newer arrangements that are taking place, newer currencies that are being talked about, bilateral arrangements that are coming up. They are all going to have an impact on trade, technology, and investments. You know that Prime Minister Modi was in France, and recently the United Payment Interface that India has developed was accepted by France also, which is a very big deal. Frankly, that India has already signed these agreements. We have trade in bilateral currencies with many countries. Newer mechanisms are coming up. So the China and so are the Russians, so are the other countries are looking at different kind of potential. Now that will have an impact on the country. But if we are going to do that with Ireland, for example, that will take away the transactional costs that are affecting our markets. So I would like to say that the, since the market is so big, obviously the retail, as far as traders are concerned, providers are concerned of various services, it is very important to understand that how the market is growing. So the Indian market, there is a statistics which says that it grew by about up to $2 trillion by 60% by last year. Now, various factors are that the Indian consumers, as I mentioned earlier, are becoming increasingly aspirational, increasingly using the money rather than saving. You know, until 1991, 92, till when we started our economic reforms, India used to finance its investments to the extent of about 92% from the domestic savings. We did not have the dependencies on the rest of the world for the investments. But today it has changed because the younger generation is more consumer oriented, which is also a fillip to the economy. And that's what precisely happening. And that is one thing that the government has tried to now come up with a policy and whereby they have allowed 100% investments to the foreign companies in the retail sector in India. As Ambassador also mentioned, today's India is looking at Make in India for the world. Startup India, as was mentioned, that we have one of the largest number of unicorns in the world, the billion-dollar companies, which have come in very recent years, have made a great mark. India is beginning to do more in the R&D sector. There is a greater possibility of collaborating in the skilling sector. And that's where I believe that India IRH companies have an heft and can collaborate with us. There is a greater opportunity for the companies in defense, security, cyber security, artificial intelligence as we move towards Industrial Revolution 4.0, computing, microchips, electronic sector, and of course, ICT and fintech are already there. Government has also started new schemes called production-linked incentive schemes. And those are very useful to take advantage in important sectors. Likewise, in the defense sector, now there is a much greater focus on, as we call Atmanirbhar, means self-reliance. But the objective is global in everything that we do. And that's what the policy India follows. As you know, our G20 dictum was Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. World is one family, one future, one world. So I think that we have to see that what the pandemic has taught us, what this war is teaching us, is that there has to be a global collaboration as we see the world also getting divided at the same time. So this will create a challenge as well as an opportunity for the companies. And the early bird always gets the prey, as you all know. So I think that we need to work together in the health sector. We need to work and understand the market. Not the Indian market, one thing I would like to say is India is many countries, actually. You will find the Singapores down to the most underdeveloped place. And each one of them is a greater opportunity, and you need to look at it from that perspective. We have about 36 states and union territories where you will be able to find different kind of routes. The best part I find about this that I have seen all along is that there is an interstate competition to attract investments, to provide the better opportunities. So it'll be good for you to look at that. But How do you want to go? You want to have a trading partnership or a buyer-seller partnership. You may have a wholly owned subsidiary there to do your business. You might set up a joint venture there. You might have your marketing office or agents. You can develop the co-production facilities, joint ventures. You can buy out an existing facility or invest in a company there in India or in the greenfield projects. I want to tell you an interesting story now because I was posted in Sweden, and when I went there, the Electrolux chairman, when we met him, he said, we are in a very difficult position in India. What they had done was they had invested in a brownfield project. That means the existing companies which are there, and their partner had not disclosed all the liabilities that were going to go there. The problem was that you could not hire and fire like you do in certain countries. In India, labor reforms were still needed. Now there is a change. But at that time, that was a big problem. And therefore, eventually, Electrolux at that time had no option but to leave the country. And they did leave country because of the wrong strategy they adopted. And what happened is, what do you do in such these big multinational corporations? They get the best of these big fours or tens, whatever is there, those big companies, consulting companies, and they advise you what to do in a country in a very professional and sometimes in a very peripheral manner. And that's what happens. So I told them, I said, if I were you and if you had discussed with us, and I'm sure if you talked to our embassy, we would have said, you are such a big multinational corporation, you should go into a greenfield project if you want to do something or market. Look at the Koreans. They have nearly 50% of India's electronics market. Not only in India, but nearly every country in the world, they have it. That's there. Then you have to find out where are you going to go to talk if you are going to meet it. I have given certain websites, and two of them are going to be giving the presentations. Our friends from CII and Invest India, which have most of the information and very often act as single window clearance. Now, interestingly, when I was going through the statistics between India-Ireland trade, I found that about out of the $4 billion trade that we have, nearly $3 billion in imports from India were in one area. That was electric machinery, equipment, parts, television, this thing, sound records, which shows that which way India is going, in fact, because it is going towards greater technological upgradation. And that's why you see a lot of information that is coming and a lot of trade that is taking place, a lot of technological transfer which is taking place. So I think that this is very important to understand while you are doing it, whether the product that you are trying to sell or work in India is actually usable there. Will it find its market? But then you have to look at it in a different way also. Look at India as a strategic location. We look at its neighbors. Would you like to set up a base in India to cater to the markets in the neighborhood? Because we also have free trade agreements with several countries, like with the ASEAN, with many other countries in the region. And would you like to avail of those markets by being positioned in India, where English is spoken, the British style of law and accounting procedures, everything is followed? So you're basically at home. So you need to look at it from that point of view, be it for trading or be it for technology or be it for tourism purposes as well as for investments. So all this is very important that you need to have a look while you're doing it. I would say that already we have about 110 companies from your country which are there in India, and I think that if the latest figures are about 70, 80 Indian companies across the sectors which are there working in Ireland. Some of them might be present today. Now, these companies are a good source of information for you in the first place. Why? Because you can talk to their representatives, you can talk to their experience. Of course, embassies are there. Your embassies in here, you have Enterprise Ireland, you have various other organizations that are working. Then you also have Ireland India Business Association, whose representatives are here. So, information availability is there. So, it is a part of your process that maximum information. What are the glitches? What can I come up against? Those are the questions that need to be asked at the beginning itself rather than later. And that those companies will be able to advise you a great deal who have been working in India for quite some time. Frankly, when I was in service, I was paid to promote the country. So it's normal. My country is great. It's a great opportunity. But as a businessman, you also need to look at it objectively about every opportunity. We are trying to make India into one of the most attractive destinations in the world. And frankly, it is showing because that's what is happening today. And so I think that we have to look at it not only the growth of the Indian economy, its purchasing power of the individuals and the people, but the way it is moving forward, be it in the renewable energy, let us look at it. That is one sector where we are going to have a tremendous opportunity now for nearly anybody who wants to invest, from nuclear to hydrogen to solar to every other aspect. And you know that India is one of the few countries in the world which has started, really has a target of about more than 40 to 50% of renewable energy by 2030. So we target is very much there, and for that, the collaboration with the countries is extremely important. Now, in the electric vehicles, that is also another area in which once you have the batteries, in that technology transfer will be very important, and so is the manufacturing. So, how do you go about doing it? Depending on your company's own philosophy, your aspiration, your risk-taking capacity, uh, how much money you wish to invest in the country, all those factors will decide which way you would like to go. Now, frankly, you can go into India, for example, you can, if you just want to have a bare minimum thing, then you can just open a liaison office in India, which could be just exploring and marketing opportunities for you, but cannot naturally do the marketing by itself or sell the products by itself. For if you want to do that, you would need to open a branch office in India. Procedure for opening a liaison office and branch office are very similar, so it's not a very big deal. If you want to work and you need a very good partner in India, that is the key and crux, not only in India, but any country. Whether it is to exporting your products or marketing your products in a country, whether it is to produce with you, all these factors, you require an extremely good partner for which whose background checks and credentials need to be thoroughly verified. Verified through the banks, through various chambers of commerces, through government organizations. Embassy will be able to help you in that. So I think this is something that you need to really look at and work on it closely, which way you want to go. If you want to have a wholly owned subsidiary, that okay, we are going to go ahead ourselves, then of course it has better dividends, but at the same time, the risk is also higher. In any case, you will need very good lawyers, you will need a very good chartered accountants company, you will also require a very good company secretary which can provide you all the information about India's regulatory environment. I think these are very key issues that you will have to come. In India, of course, the Reserve Bank of India uh, has all the possibilities of information that is available. Almost 100% in most sectors, 100% equity can be owned by you. And for that, a simple automatic route is there. So it's much more simpler. Most of the things today are available digitally. And so we can get all the information digitally from those websites. Some of them I have also listed in the paper that I circulated to you and through the embassy. So I think that whichever, whether you go through the financial collaboration, technical collaboration, joint venture, the key to that is to know the market size. The key to that is to know how you are going to go ahead with this, how much invested you are in this particular project. So that will be very, very key from your perspective or any company's perspective. I think for which a lot of research is required to be done, and for which I think our chambers and others will be very happy to help you, apart from your own resources, which are available in this country also for a very long time now. And they are very active and doing a great job. So I think that choose which way you would like to do and then move forward. That I would say, whether if you are going to get into the infrastructure sector, you may have your project office, you may participate in equity, you may participate through equipment, through technology. So I think that it will depend on your area of expertise, in your area of focus. Are you looking at the greenfield project? In the new area, are you looking for? So it is very important to look for that. Now, there are two routes to go into India if you are going into the investments. Obviously, one is as I said, automatic route, that is through Reserve Bank of India. where 100% equity is available and you can apply for that. Of course, the list of those items is very much available on sectors, which will be, I hope that will be shown by India Invest. This thing. Then there is another one where you want an exception. Now that is about 100% FDI. And I can tell you one interesting thing is when I was posted in New York, there was a company called Enron. Some of you must have heard its name. We were all looking for a lot of investments into India, and the Enron was going to invest in India. And I had met their CEO called Rebecca Mark. And before leaving for India, and I told her, I said, look, we need power. So therefore, you please, you are the first ones. And their rate of return was the highest. I mean, it was maddeningly highest in the world, 24% at the time. Of course, later on, it all with the sovereign guarantees. I said, you don't need to ask for any exceptions to the rule. But they didn't. They went by, once they came India, they were driven by their own partners or advisors. What we saw that they landed up in great trouble. They couldn't function properly. They had to close shop. They started indulging in practices that were not desirable and are forbidden by their own law in their own country. And so I met the lady about 2 years later. So they paid some $2 million, and I'm just mentioning it to you so that one knows, to some politicians or whatever. And then it was shown as educating the Indians. So then she came on, what do I do now? The new people have come in. I said, it's a democracy. People keep on changing. Now the earlier ones wanted to be educated. Now the new ones want to be educated. So you better be careful. Why did you get into that mess? And eventually it didn't succeed. So what I'm saying is that go by the rules. Look at the regulations. Go by the letter and the spirit of the rule. That is very important to be successful because you will be looked up. We need investments. India is an opportunity and we want those companies. So therefore, it is important that you follow. Another thing that you need to understand is, of course, the culture. There is a cultural shift always when you go from Europe to India. Ambassador said that we are very similar people. That's very good, great. But I tell you, I mean, how it works out is that Indians generally want to be very pally. When they meet with you, I mean, they'll be asking you very personal questions that might be an affront here in the European context. But they are like that. They want to be comfortable. They want to make you comfortable. So it is not something that is eventually one gets to like. For me, as an officer, also we go through these cultural shocks when we move from country to country. So when I went from Mongolia to USA, and I've been to, so before that I was only in developing countries. So I decided to go and call on the Commissioner of Businesses, small businesses in New York City, and they were importing about $12 billion worth of goods, which were directly relevant to us, and we were not selling. So I said, let me just talk to him. So I thought, let me have a courtesy call on him. In diplomacy, we have a courtesy call business, which is quite common. So courtesy means you go there, have a cup of coffee, get to know one another, exchange cards, and come back. I arrived there at the World Trade Center, which is no longer there, unfortunately. And the person, he was standing outside and he told me, he says, when we were going in, he said, you want to have a cup of coffee? Please help yourself. Now, that was a shocker because in India, when you come there, people will come and get things for you. It doesn't happen. Secondly, as soon as we entered, there were about, like you are sitting there, some of you, around the round table, there were 12 of his deputy commissioners of business were sitting there. So he said, well, since we thought you were coming, let's have a brainstorming. Another culture shock because you thought that you'll just have a pleasantries there. So you need to be prepared. Time is money. That is something, invest. But in India, you will feel that, oh, the guy is talking to me all kinds of things, taking, no, why don't you come and do shopping, take something for your wife. Those are the way things work. We also used to have a lot of family companies that were going on, the multi-billionaire companies. But at the same time, today, every company is managed mostly by professionals. So when you're talking to them, so you will find that while the professionalism is very much there, at the same time, there is also some kind of a cultural connect, as I mentioned, P2P connect. I hope this will not be a shocker for our friends from Ireland, because they have very similar kind of ethos. So I think that this is something that is going to be very useful. So just Before I close, I want to say that there are two things that probably you should have a look. If you want to have an indirect presence, then you will need to have an agent or a representative or a liaison office, and where you have a limited financial and legal risk. So you can just appoint independent local distributors for your products, and that is one way, one step, a step-by-step approach. Or if you want to have a direct presence, then you can have a limited liability partnership or wholly owned subsidiary, whichever way you wish to go, branch office for that matter. And that will give a better control over your operations. Whatever you are doing, you will be able to control your managers, everybody will be there, and how the financial and marketing activities are undertaken, whether expenses are within the limit or not. All that you can do it with the chain of your distributors and with your direct control over the company. So these are some of the points I say, but nothing like seeing is believing is the same. So if you're going to work in India, I would request you must first visit the place also. Once you are here, then you will get to know really yourself that what is it that you are looking at. A lot of people, you are 5 million, but a lot of people come here and they get a shock when they see a plaque. This Delhi itself alone has more than 20 million people, and so many are traversing every day, morning and evening. So that could itself be a source of strength for you that, oh, what a great market. And then, of course, there are other things as well. Skill development is one thing which India is focusing a great deal. I think that you should participate in that. New areas are very much there. It is very important. Learn that India is not one, as I mentioned in the beginning. There are 30 odd places, there are regional languages. You will need people who speak those languages to connect to your clients where you are reaching, whom you want to reach. A lot of it will depend on those factors. At the end, I mean, when you are coming here, also try to find out that if there is a major trade fair taking place that is relevant to you. It's common sense, but we have in India some of the very big trade fairs. One is done by the India International Trade Fair. Every year it's fixed dates, November 14 to 27, which is in which many countries have participated as a partner country also. So that's one place where you can get a lot of information. Plenty of industry focused trade fairs and exhibitions happen at a very large professional scale. I think those are very important uh, places to get information as well as clients and your partners. So you can get in one visit while you get to see India, you will also get to have enough business this thing. In India, also something you will require is a little bit of patience. It's very good to have to see things, but you need to have patience. You need to have perseverance, and you need to think of India as a long term. If you are looking at quick returns, uncertainty, you might as well go to China or some other country where rules can be changed tomorrow. India, that does not happen. You might have a bit of a frustration sometimes in the legal cases. Yes, if you go the wrong way, it is quite possible. But it's still a country where rule of law prevails. So therefore, you have to see in a longer term perspective when you are looking at India. So for whatever you do, most important thing is due diligence. It is very important, and to ensure that your partners are credible and reliable. I'll stop here, and if there are any questions, I'll be very happy to answer. And thank you, Ambassador, once again for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your comprehensive coverage on the topic, including the promising nature of Indian economy and the sectors which could be focused, and the ease of doing business with India, then India's strategic location, and renewable energy as one of the promising sectors that could be focused. And just thought of sharing with all of you that Mission has scheduled such a similar seminar in the next week, 28th of July, on renewable energy. Thank you, thank you so much for your speech, and we will please reserve the questions for the question and answer session. And now it's time for supplementary remarks by our partners today. So let's start with CII. Firstly, I would like to invite Ms. Bhavana Seth Ranjan, on behalf of CII, Confederation of Indian Industry. A brief about Ms. Bhavana. Ms. Bhavana Ranjan Seth heads the market facilitation services desk in IIBA. With more than 25 years of experience, she has previously worked with organizations such as Invest India, Cement Manufacturers Association, and IBA with the gamut of her experience spanning inbound and outbound trade and investment research and facilitation, as well as government affairs. In her current role, she is in charge of strategizing and spearheading research and advisory projects, including assessment of export markets for various products across countries and market entry and investment advisory projects. Yes, please. Ms. Bhavana. Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Very good morning to everybody in Dublin and good afternoon to folks here in India. Would it be possible for me to share my screen? Is that I have, since only 5 minutes, I thought it'll be a very short presentation of 2 slides. Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Good morning once again to everybody over there. And I'm taking the opportunity today to make a very short presentation on, introducing CII's strategic initiative for trade and investment services. CII's role, its strengths, and its activities are presumably well known to everybody. But to start off, I would very quickly, like to just reiterate these for companies that are present in today's webinar. So CII is a national industry association with 65 offices across India at the state level and the zonal levels, and 8 overseas offices through which CII can reach out to stakeholders in most parts of the world. An industry-led association, CII regularly undertakes initiatives to deepen industry's engagement with government, with think tanks, as well as international partners, via several platforms that include CEO forums, bilateral business summits, investor outreach events, strategic dialogues, and sectoral and government delegations. Our efforts, all of which are aimed at providing an edifice and institutional structure for Indian business, have often formed the backdrop to Indian industry's global forays. Given this background and extensive engagement with industry, CII took a strategic decision in 2019 to launch its Market Facilitation Services, or MFS division, for undertaking company and product-specific trade and investment research and facilitation in both the domestic markets and global markets. So MFS is a fee-based service, and this initiative is in keeping with CII's constant efforts to reorient our services to keep pace with the changing paradigms in the global trade and investment ecosystem. Through the MFS division, we assess export markets at the product level. We undertake sectoral analyses. We offer market entry and location advisory. We look at value chain optimization, and we search for potential partners and buyers. For inbound investment, our understanding is that companies require more than a comprehension of the India opportunity, and that a deep dive into aspects such as sourcing of raw materials or hiring of relevant personnel and an understanding of the salaries thereof, the navigation of the policy landscape, knowing who your suppliers are, who your buyers are, all of these are very important issues. Ones that are as important as knowing the various costs that are involved in setting up an establishment, and of course, licensing with the relevant departments and ministries to ensure that projects are rolled out seamlessly. So through the MFS division, CII endeavors to provide all such answers to investing companies. Our biggest strength is, once again, just to reiterate, our localized and granular workings on a day-to-day basis at the state and zonal levels, with both government and businesses. Added to this is also the immense amount of sectoral knowledge that resides within CII. All of these factors lend us a strategic advantage over other institutions that allow us to, offer a comprehensive package of services that includes market research, partner and buy-in search, on-the-ground facilitation with government, ongoing policy advocacy platforms and meetings with government, sectoral knowledge, hand-holding at the facilitation stage, and connect with partners required for, HR, for hiring, for company incorporation, for addressing legal issues, tax issues, etc. So that, in short, is the landscape of the business facilitation work that is being undertaken by CII currently. And we would very greatly value an opportunity to welcome Irish companies to India. I think I had a time slot for 5 minutes, so thank you. That was my presentation for today.
Thank you so much. Really, it's very, very insightful, and especially the India Advisory Services, which is a comprehensive package of services being offered for the business people who wants to do business in India, which do business with India. Thank you so much. And now,
Thank you.
now shall we invite Mr. Salik from Invest India to give your remarks.
Good. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to begin by thanking His Excellency Anil Trigunayak ji and His Excellency Akhilesh Mishra ji for gracing us with their presence today. I would also like to thank the Embassy of Ireland for conducting this session, CII and all the participants for joining us today. Let me start by mentioning that India's progress over the past 75 years has been outstanding. Our GDP has grown more than 100 times, exports more than 500 times, and our FDI inflows have also doubled in the past 8 years. We have the second largest working population globally, with a median age of approximately 28 years. And despite the pandemic, India continues to be the fastest growing large-scale economy globally and is now the 5th largest economy in nominal terms. In the financial year 2020 to 2023, India's exports have breached the $770 billion mark for the first time ever. India's service exports also grew for more than 26% to outperform expectations at $332 billion during the same time period. India remains focused on its ambitious goals of achieving $2 trillion of exports by 2030 and to join the ranks of top exporting nations globally. India has also recently announced the new foreign trade policy, which allows automatic approval of various permissions based on process simplification and technology implementation. When it comes to India's digital economy, which is growing rapidly, we have more than 1.2 billion mobile phone users, out of which 750 million are smartphone users. In more than 350 districts in India are covered under 5G, making it easier for businesses and consumers to have access to faster and more reliable internet connectivity. The government's Digital India initiative is driving digitization across the country, and India is on track to build the first trillion-dollar digital economy by 2025. India's growing digital economy has also made a huge impact on country's bustling startup landscape, which has more than 108 unicorns present in India, and which is the 3rd largest globally. A very interesting fact is that almost half of Indian startups are either from tier 2 or tier 3 cities, highlighting the widespread entrepreneurial spirit across the country. The Startup India initiative by Invest India has established 17 international startup bridges with different countries across the globe to facilitate knowledge sharing and facilitate international collaborations. India is actually home to around 180 innovation centers belonging to Fortune 500 companies, which makes it a hotbed for cutting-edge research and development companies. Some of these centers are the largest R&D centers outside their home countries. For example, Samsung, LG, Intel. This shows the immense potential and the capabilities of the Indian workforce. India, which has also been steadily climbing the ranks of innovation, ranking #1 in Central and South Asia in the Global Innovation Index, and has jumped 41 positions since 2015. The Indian government has taken significant steps to improve the EODB, which is ease of doing business in India. Let me highlight a few points here. The PM Gati Shakti scheme is a technology platform which actually integrates 16 ministries to ensure seamless movements of goods and services across the country. And this particular portal focuses on transforming the logistics and the infrastructure connectivity in the country. On similar lines, the National Logistics Policy, which aims to reduce the logistics cost, which is currently at 14% of our GDP, to single digits by 2030. One more interesting initiative is the production linked incentive, which actually promotes the domestic production in 14 sectors. The National Single Window System portal, which aims to eliminate the information asymmetry by providing guidance on required approvals. These reforms, together with 300 other reforms, have been implemented to lead India's impressive 79 position jump from the 63rd rank in the World Ease of Doing Business ranking. In the next 25 years, India's aim is to become the world's second largest economy with a GDP of $32 trillion. This ambitious goal is supported by a range of initiatives that the government has put in place to spur the growth and drive economic development, including attracting FDI, foreign direct investments, and $1 trillion, and growing exports to around $8 trillion. One of our biggest strengths is our youth population, and by 2047, India will have the largest and the youngest working age population. The government also has set an ambitious goal of achieving net zero emissions by the year 2070. We have already the fourth largest overall renewable energy producer globally, with the fourth position in solar and wind energy production. As a co-founder of the International Solar Alliance, we are working with like-minded nations to promote the use of solar energy and unlock the $1 trillion in investment in the solar energy by 2030. The new India is growing and inviting businesses worldwide to invest in India. And India is bullish on technologies of the future, which is green infrastructure, sustainability, and smart manufacturing. And we at Invest India are available to handhold businesses and support them in their investment journey. So as I touched base upon this, that we at Invest India are the national investment promotion and the facilitation arm of Government of India. And our job is to handhold investors across different stages in the investment cycle in India, be it at the pre-investment stage where we provide policy and regulatory advisory and the industry opportunity assessment, or at the investment execution stage where we can assist in land parcel identification and the entry route procedure advisory. We also at Invest India indulge in aftercare exercises at this stage where we advise on support for expansion for companies. For any further information, I would highly recommend you to visit our website for all necessary information. I would like to highlight one point, that we are a part of Government of India, so all our services are pro bono. So please don't hesitate to contact us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Saleh, for your wonderful presentation and for reiterating most of the points and then bringing new facts on the table. Great, thank you so much. And now, shall we invite IIBA India Ireland Business Association? I'll just give a brief introduction about IIBA. So IIBA India Ireland Business Association was formed in 2008 to grow business between India and Ireland by providing a platform where businesses can get together and help each other. And this year they have opened IIBA Foundation in India. IIBA operate through 5 working groups: aviation, ICT, pharma, medtech, education, and jobs, and SMEs and startups. So most of the many of the heads of the working groups are here with us today. So during the networking session, we will tie up with them for further such seminar focusing on particular areas. And IIBA is a membership-based non-profit organization and work closely with the government agencies and the embassies on both sides, and can help Irish business going to India and vis-a-vis. Right now, I request Mr. Sumit to give away their remarks. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Morgaraj, for the wonderful introduction. First of all, apologies, I came in a bit late. In my 25 years in Dublin, I've never seen the East Wall Bridge open, but today it opened on me. And good afternoon, Excellencies, Ambassador Mishra and Ambassador Tuna, and other distinguished guests. So thank you very much for organizing this wonderful event, and very interesting and topical seminar. And we have heard a lot of useful tips and pointers and why people should invest in India, why India is good for business. And thanks very much for inviting IIBA to be a part of it. Mr. Deepak Chaudhary, our chair, was supposed to be here for the seminar, but he could not, but he said he'll join us for lunch later. So I am stepping in for him. So as Mr. Murugaraj said, my name is Sumit Malik. I am one of the directors of IIBA currently, and I'm also the treasurer at the moment of IIBA. And just to give a quick introduction to IIBA, it was established in 2008. The likes of TCS, Bank of Ireland, KPMG, William Fry, they got together to set up this organization. And the main idea was to foster business relations and to grow business between India and Ireland. It's as he said, Mr. Murugaraj said, it's a not-for-profit membership-based organization. And our main source of income, or basically our only source of income, is membership, and in some cases sponsorship. Currently, we have 3 directors. Deepak Chaudhary, who is also the country manager of TCS, he's our chair. Brian Kelly there is the vice chair. He's heads the company corporate relocations, and I am the other director then. And I work for a company called ZIB Automation. And so we have a steering committee with us 3 and all the working group lead and co-lead. So there are 5 working groups, as you mentioned. There's ICT, aviation, pharma, and medtech. So pharma and medtech had their first in-person event last Monday at the Epic Immigration Museum, and it was a good event, well attended. And then we have education and jobs, which is led by Brian himself. And we have a new SME and startup group. In fact, we did an event with the embassy last September, the SME and startup group. That was a successful event, and we plan to do another one this September again. And the good news this year is the IIBA Foundation was launched, which is a subsidiary of IIBA in India. And it was launched in May in Ireland House in the presence of IDA and the Irish Embassy. And again, a well-attended event. And it will be headed by a guy called Saurabh Sanyat, who's based in Gurgaon. And the other director is Amit Tyagi, who's from Acumen Aviation, and he's based in Bangalore. And there are a few other directors spread around India. And with this organization, now we are closing the gap. So earlier we had Ireland only, and we relied on our personal connections with India. But now that we have an organization in India, we can have more two-way traffic. And just to reiterate, we are not trying to replace anyone. We are not, in fact, I can see Saurabh there, who's the chair of Ireland IIBA Foundation. We are not replacing anyone or any organization. We want to fill in the gaps and work with everyone, EI, IDA, the embassies on both sides, and now Invest India as well. So with our network of partners and members, we have law firms, banks, accounting firms. We want to provide a soft landing for businesses in Ireland and now in India as well. We would like to handhold them and make new connections for them and make their entry into Ireland or India as comfortable as possible. We have partnered in the past with organizations like FICCI and CII, and now that we have IIBA India, we want to do more of it. And so Saurabh is on the case. And now we are also focusing our attention on regional chambers of commerce in Ireland, because as yourself and all the other past ambassadors have said, we have to go out of Dublin. We cannot just concentrate on Dublin. So we had a very good event in January. We had a visit to the Jaguar Land Rover factory in Shannon, and then we had an afternoon meeting with the Shannon Chamber of Commerce, and Tipperary Chamber of Commerce joined as well. So that's our focus this year, that we want to partner with the chambers of commerce in Ireland. And I suppose hybrid events like this are the way to go forward, where we have now with the technology, and COVID has shown us that it's possible. So we have a participation for both sides, and IIBA India can bring along their members, and they have started the membership drive, and we are continuing with our membership drive. So and I can tell you that of late in the last 1 year, I've seen the interest in India grow, and even in Ireland, like all kinds of inquiries come through our various channels, emails, LinkedIn, whatever, and just onwards and upwards. So thank you very much again for inviting IIBA to be a part of this event. And have a good day, and thank you.
Let me take a cue from your speech. As he rightly said, as Mr. Sumit rightly said, now these days the number of or volume of quantum of the inquiries, state inquiries we are getting in the embassy is on the rise. And I have my colleague here, Ms. Komal Rani, she's marketing executive, and she's nicely handling all those queries, but it's tremendously increased in these days, in the past. Right? So thank you so much for joining us, and we appreciate your association with the embassy in the past, and also looking forward more such events. And so we will discuss more in the networking session. And now this is time for Q&A session. So the floor is open for question and answer. So if anybody is having some queries, please.
Maybe just a question for, I think it was for Invest in India. Are you seeing any trends in terms of industries that are more aiming to come to India? I mean, you're hearing about all these inquiries. Are you seeing a differential between sectors? I know you're there to support all forms of FDI, but are you seeing any trends in terms of sectors that have a higher propensity to reach out to you and try to venture to India?
So, yes, with respect to sectors, we definitely are seeing trends. And as Salik mentioned in his presentation, for all the forward-looking technologies that are there, that includes production of green hydrogen into renewables, these are the sectors that India is really bullish on. And even during Prime Minister Modi's visit to France, these were the sectors that were highlighted in the CEO forum and the business conferences that we had. Of course, in terms of manufacturing, in terms of sectors like furniture or FMCG, there have always been a good influx of investments from various companies, owing to the huge market that India presents and also the opportunity, like Ambassador mentioned, the opportunity of exporting by producing in India because of all the FTAs that we have with the nearby regional economies, which are again one of the biggest populations or fastest growing economies of the world. So yes, there are trends, but again, like we have a goal on being carbon neutral by in the future. India has the target of 2070. So for that, we are really focusing on renewables. We are really focusing on green technology. But yes, all other sectors that you see that that has an opportunity for companies to come and open their businesses in India. So if in case you would like to know more about what those sectors, there are various PLI schemes, like sir mentioned, and all those PLI schemes have a certain window where they open in and the companies can come in and establish their market here. So yes, there are those sectors.
If I may just, one example you can see of the iPhones. The Foxconn came into India, and India has emerged as a major exporter. I mean, nearly 12% of their total production is out of India. So most of the companies, big companies and others, are trying to look at, in view of the stress under the global and value supply chains, towards India. Some are looking at China plus one strategy. The others are following the direct exclusively into India or outside. So I think that there is in the past 1 or 2 years, we have seen a much greater trend of the companies and looking at it, which is also seen within the amount of foreign direct investment that we have seen. Unprecedented is the highest foreign direct investment, including during the pandemic, that India continued to get.
And just to add on to what Ambassador Triguna had said about mobile phones, I would like to mention the point here that more than 90% of mobile phones that are used in India are homemade. So that also marks a significant presence of companies like Samsung and Xiaomi and all other even iPhones that have started being manufacturing in the country.
Yes, question. So I have a bit of a practical question. So I'm Srini Day. We are an Irish startup, digital health startup, and we opened our 100% subsidiary in India last year. We developed ourselves in Ireland as with a lot of help from Enterprise Ireland. We are a high potential startup of Enterprise Ireland, and we obviously went through investments a lot of accelerators and a lot of support for our team. Now we are building the team in India as well, with our 100% subsidiary. What sort of help can we get in India as a 100% subsidiary of a foreign startup in terms of those accessing those types of either investment or accelerator programs, developing the team, because training the team from here is becoming a bit of an issue, and will be really helpful if we could get some support there. Is there any?
So thank you so much for asking that question, because that also allows me to highlight the presence of Startup India, which is one of the branches of Invest India, wherein we not only provide assistance to Indian startups that are trying to scale, but also provide assistance to startups from anywhere in the world who want to open up their offices in India. And like you mentioned, that you would need some support. I don't have the exhaustive list of what all services that Startup India provides. Of course, there is a website and it entails all the information that you will probably need in order to get any help. But I would be happy to connect you with one of the leads for Europe that we have in Startup India. So Mr. Murugaran will definitely be able to help you with my email ID. And I would also put it here in the comment box. And if you can reach out to me, that will be great. And I'll be able to connect you to the right person who will be able to give you all the guidance that you require over here.
Thank you very much. My question was for ourselves, but also for the other Irish startups here. One of my job is, like, I try to get Irish startups to look at India as well, so it'd be very helpful.
Yes, so with respect to that, for other startups as well, with His Excellency's permission, we can also do a session that is solely focused on startups and that gives you all the opportunities there.
Yeah,
So
we have planned something.
and set up a date and a time, and you can invite as many startups as you would like, and we would also invite the right people. And also, one thing that we can do there is we can tailor it as to the opportunities that Ireland presents, and specifically to Ireland, what are the policies that we have. So that will also allow you to give a very dedicated and pinpointed answers to all the questions that you would have.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do that in the September event.
If there are no questions, then let me invite Mr. Sanyal. Sanjeev ji.
Sorry.
Sorry, Saurav Sanyal ji.
Namaskar, sir. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Great to see you, and must congratulate you on finally getting the IIBA Foundation in India.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, I mean, I thought I'd also give a slight update on what's happening in India with IIBA. As our colleague Sumit mentioned, that we've set up about 6 months back. So now we are taking the first baby steps of taking on board our first members, which has just started as of 15 days ago. So we've had a very good response to our initial membership drive. So we're talking to some of the largest Irish companies which are based in India, and hopefully we'll have them on board in the next month or so. We're also starting to speak to some Indian companies who have shown a lot of interest in Ireland. We're talking to some fintech companies in India. We are talking to food companies in India who are interested in understanding the opportunities in Ireland as well. So yes, we are off to a good start. I think it's taken us some time to get going, but I think we are now setting up our working groups in India as well, and we'll be working closely with IIBA in Ireland, so that we can have a close working relationship between both India and Ireland. So yes, so we put together the structure now, and I'm looking forward to also reaching out to other partners such as CII and Invest India, so that we can work together on some of these initiatives, and hopefully we can also put together a calendar of events in the coming months, so that we can have a much more regular interaction across sectors, be it and specific work through our working groups, be it aviation, be it pharmaceutical, be it education. So we've also reached out to a number of Indian universities and Irish universities in India, both from an R&D perspective, as well as the new education policy itself has a number of opportunities to collaborate. And we were also discussing, in fact, yesterday as to how we could structure some of these opportunities. So I think we could also do a session around the new education policy, and potentially how what the opportunities there are. So I think in a month or two's time, we should have the working groups up and running. And once we have that, we will have regular sector-based opportunities to engage with IIBA members, both in India and Ireland, as well as the larger India, Irish, with CII, with Invest India, so that we can have so IIBA sees itself as a platform for everybody to come and engage and work together, so that this whole India-Ireland trade and investment corridor grows.
Friends, if there are no other questions or comments, then let me take the opportunity of thanking each one of you for participating with your presence here for us. And also, my special thanks to Mr. Anil Tibrani for your very inspiring message. I cannot but reiterate the point you mentioned about the importance of due diligence. That is,
Thank you so much.
Yeah, for any relationship to be successful, due diligence is a must. And also, I'll go one step further that the sustainability has to be looked into in advance. You can't wish away how the funding will be done, how the partnership will be executed. So that has to be thought through before you plunge into the market. And last point I wish to again highlight is the opportunities are there, but as Mr. Tibrani mentioned, no country is easy to break into for the first newcomer. So you have to have a more focused, granular approach. And when you're talking about countries with such disparity in size, 5 million, 1.4 billion people, it could be very daunting. So my way out is that instead of focusing at the macro scale, look at individual connects. So one Irish entrepreneur engaging one Indian entrepreneur in one-on-one relationship, not 1.4 billion people of India, 5 billion. The actual business relationship is made by point-to-point connects. So this is important, not get bogged down by a mega scale, daunting scale that India represents at superficial level. Focus one-on-one. And also more broad-based connectivity. India is not Delhi, Ireland is not just Dublin. There are a lot of interesting opportunities at the regional level, at local level. So we need more connectors. And that is why the role of IIBA and the role of CII as an advisory service provider, Invest India. So those focal points are extremely valuable. At this stage, the dissemination of information is the most important area we need to focus on, because the awareness on both sides is rather limited. Yeah.
Namaskar, Ambassador. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.